We're on. Well, guys, welcome. We're not used to a full house like this. We're used to hearing echoes. So, welcome all here. And I just want to welcome everyone. We got quite a crew in the audience here. And one of the little ladies here, Erin, who's in attendance, asked her mom what the deputy mayor was. And of course, she tried to explain it to her. So she said, "Oh, does that mean he's Mayor Sims' butler?" And I said, sometimes he likes to think that. But no, Erin, I'm not Mayor Sims' butler. Not today, but some days I am. So again, welcome. So let's call the meeting to order. First of all, the agenda. Any additions to the agenda that we have presented here? No additions? All right, I'll ask for a mover to move by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Stoyles, to accept the agenda as presented. So we'll call the question. All those in favour? Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. The next, we're going to adopt the minutes from our previous meeting, which was February the 25th, moved by Councillor Ledwell and seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Any errors or omissions from the minutes of February 25th? None noted. We'll call the question then. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. That brings us then to business arising from the minutes of February the 25th.
I have an item.
And I can ask if you would give the number of the item so we can make reference to that. Councillor Stoyles?
1402-123.
Okay.
And it's regarding the turf maintenance. I'm just wondering, the award has been offered. I'm just wondering if that's the Soccer Association will pay back, or I'm just wondering or will paying it.
That's a good question.
I thought it was the Soccer Association.
Councillor
maintenance.
Councillor Aker asked the same question. It's not the artificial turf. It's for our grass, our natural grass. That's to maintain our grasses throughout the province. Throughout the city. Okay? So it's not the artificial turf, but
it's not the artificial turf.
Same question that was asked. To update
I apologise, I wasn't here last meeting.
No worries. No, fair question. Anything else? Any minutes, questions, or business arising? Not today? All right. Well, if there's no more business arising, we'll push on now to our presentations, proclamations, and correspondence. And I know that Mayor Sims certainly knew when to leave, because I have never seen this many proclamations and presentations in my 7 years on council, and absolutely quality ones. I should mention, however, that we have a skeleton crew up front, in case you're wondering. Mayor Sims is on vacation. Councillor Tessier is on vacation. And Councillor Walsh had some medical issues. I'm delighted to say, however, that he's at home now and he's recovering, so that's great news. So we look forward to a full recovery of Councillor Walsh, and we look forward to seeing him back in the council chair real soon. So in case you're wondering why the Mayor's butler is sat in the chair today, it's my role to chair the meetings when the Mayor's not here. And I'm delighted to do so because of some of the proclamations, all the proclamations that are coming through tonight. But the first thing on our agenda is a presentation dealing with the Newfoundland Housing and Homelessness Network, dealing with some fundraising that took place during Pancake Day. And we have... who's speaking with this one? So Mr. Dave Murphy is going to come up after the fact, but my understanding is Councillor Ledwell is going to get up and outline some of the initiatives and some of the proceeds that were raised. So, Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was going to call you Your Worship's butler, but I figured that would be disrespectful, so I won't do that. I'm here today, of course, to making some noise there. Talk about an initiative that had taken place a week or so ago. It was a partnership between the Newfoundland and Labrador Housing and Homelessness Network, and it was a partnership that they had with our staff here at the City of Mount Pearl. Now, the NLHHN partners with CBC every year to organize a variety of CBC, Newfoundland and Labrador pancake breakfasts for homelessness. This year's event was held on Tuesday, March 4th, and there was a CBC event that was held at Smitty's. But also, of course, our own city staff right here in the City of Mount Pearl organized their own pancake breakfast for all city staff and council. There were breakfasts held here at City Hall and at the depot on Tuesday, March the 4th. Staff organized the event. They sold tickets, prepared the food, did the serving and the cleanup. So everybody had a busy morning here at City Hall and at the depot. Now, council contributed the food supplies, and that was for both events. We were generous enough to do that, so that was great. And city staff also organized a 50-50 draw to raise additional funds for the event. Now, the event was very well attended, and certainly there were some good results that were had from the event. I'd like to welcome today Kim Mosier from our city staff and Sherry Fitzpatrick representing our union, QP Local 2099. They're here to make a presentation to the Newfoundland and Labrador Housing and Homelessness Network in the amount, first of all, of $1,026 from the city staff for the fundraising events. Our union Local 2099 has contributed a further $100 for a total of $1,126, and these proceeds are going to go to the Newfoundland and Labrador Housing and Homelessness Network to go and fight homelessness in this fair province of ours. So I'd like to first of all invite Mr. Murphy, if he wanted to come forward, perhaps provide a brief overview of the Community Pancake Breakfast Initiative, and then we'll have our presentation shortly thereafter.
Thank you, Councillor Redwell. If you come up here, sir, I've been instructed by my boss to use the mic and snuggle up to the chair here so you're calm. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, folks, and thank you very much for this amazing, generous offer on behalf of the City of Mount Pearl and its workers. This is unbelievably a great surprise as we wind down our pancake campaign. You've done very well. I want to acknowledge Stefan here, who I've worked with closely over the last number of years as a part of our network, and he's been bringing the concerns of Mount Pearl to our table as we address affordable housing and homelessness in our province. This is the 10th annual for us, and it's grown from a small kitchen event in a church in downtown St. John's to a provincial-wide event this year, as it has been the last number of years. It's a very important event. It does raise significant dollars for a number of organizations province-wide, but it also creates the awareness factor of why we need to fight homelessness, what homelessness looks like in our province, and how we can do more to address the affordable housing issue, which is a growing crisis in our province. As we see as the housing market rise, the rental market continue to increase, and more families find it tougher to maintain their housing. So these dollars in this region will benefit 4 organizations directly that will be helping fight homelessness on the front lines, and I'd just like to mention them. These dollars will be spread directly around with the Iris Kirby House, Choices for Youth, the Canadian Mental Health Association, and also the John Howard Society. Those are this year's recipients for these dollars. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We look forward to working with you all again next year for the 11th annual. Thank you.
We're going to get a little photo op up front.
Yeah, get Kim and Sherry to come forward then.
Yeah, Kim and Sherry want to come up front and get your Snapchat.
Don't go away without that. All about the money.
Want to join us as well, Councillor Redwell?
Sure thing.
To the presentation. Where do you want us there? Jason, 27 comes back this weekend as well. Come over here or Sherry? You want to shake it this way, guys? Okay, Sherry. Lucy? Good there? I'm going to snuggle up with Robert. All right, come in. Can you get on the back? Maybe May, this is all done. Everybody's smiling. Just one. Everything's just one of us. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Your Worship. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, anyone want to speak to that before? Oh, we got our folks leaving, but
I know they're just out the door.
Councillor Aker?
That's fine, but I just want to say that sometimes being a city is not just about the raw services. It's not just about street cleaning and water and sewer and transportation. Sometimes the soft services is what's important, being involved in the community. I too want to congratulate not just CUPE but all the city staff, management, and council who participated in the fundraiser. That $1,000 means a lot to Iris Kirby House. It means an awful lot to people like the Canadian Mental Health Association. So congratulations to all. A job well done, and we'll see you next year.
here. Anyone else wish to speak to that?
No, that's
I managed to make it up to Smitty's that morning. The cursed thing of a full-time job got in the way, so I managed to get to Smitty's for a cup of coffee. But I did get to the depot, and I got to say they had quite a spread up there. And I did manage to have some beautiful blueberry pancakes that morning. I had to eat and run, however, but it was a great crowd. I didn't have the opportunity to get to the city, but again, Councillor Aker spoke to it so well. There's so much work that goes on by our city staff here for community initiatives, so our hat goes off to them. It's a great initiative, and it was a huge success. We used to have the Pancake Challenge, remember, between the city of Mount Pearl and the city of St. John's, but
We've won so many times.
well, I didn't want to say that, Councillor Ledwell, but 2 or 3 years in a row we took home the big pancake trophy, and then CBC changed it. They well, okay, no comment there. But anyways, a great initiative, and thank you to everyone involved. The next proclamation we have to get to now is for Volunteer Week, and my understanding is Dr. Andrew Fury. Is he in the house here? So I'll read the proclamation, and then Dr. Fury will speak to the proclamation. Okay, so do you want to come up now? And thank you. All right, Volunteer Week, April 6th to the 12th of 2014. For the health of it. Whereas the City of Mount Pearl recognizes the enormous contribution that volunteers and voluntary community-based organizations make to the social, cultural, and economic development of our province, and whereas it has been recognized that more than 52% of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians over the age of 15 contribute an average of 155 volunteer hours annually, it's roughly 3 hours per week, resulting in a significant and positive impact on the quality of life for our citizens. And whereas the City of Mount Pearl acknowledges the theme for the health of it for Volunteer Week 2014 recognizes and shows appreciation to all our citizens who volunteer and encourages the continuation of volunteerism. Therefore, with the support of City Council, I sign this proclamation and declare the period from April 6th to April 12th, 2014, to be observed throughout the City of Mount Pearl as Volunteer Week. And I call upon and urge all residents to lend their time and skills to this worthwhile activity. So Dr. Fury, if you'd like to speak to that, I'll turn on this mic for you. And if you can move a little closer to the chair
we'll
here.
Snuggle in here together. Yeah, you don't look quite like a butler, but thank you, Deputy Mayor, councillors, and really the City of Mount Pearl in general for not only continuing to recognize Volunteer Week, but for truly recognizing the value that volunteers bring to establishing such a beautiful city and such a great province. The Community Sector Council and Volunteer Week Committee, along with VOCM Cares Foundation and others, are quite pleased this year again to have Volunteer Week this year, April 6th to the 12th. Being asked to be honorary chair this year was a privilege for me, and it gave me an opportunity to actually reflect on what it means to be a volunteer in Newfoundland and Labrador. In this reflection, I did some research, and I came across the same thing that was in the proclamation, that over half the people in the province volunteer. That's an incredible number of people who volunteer and give of their time to the betterment of the province and really the country as a whole. And as I kind of did more reflection on that and why that number is so high, and it truly is, it's remarkable, I came to the realization that volunteering in Newfoundland and Labrador, it's more, people who volunteer, it's more than being just about a volunteer. It truly is who we are as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. The desire to help others in need is entrenched deep within the culture and embedded in our DNA. Volunteering comes in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, whether it's helping your neighbor shovel, volunteering at the community center, or trying to help the plight of the poor in faraway nations. But irrespective of the size and shape of volunteering, there's one common action there, helping people in need. However, for every action, there is a reaction. And by volunteering, not only do we make our communities better, studies have shown that, in fact, we improve our own individual health and well-being. I'm, of course, extremely excited about this year's theme, Giving for the Health of It, as I'm a physician and it's quite close to home. It highlights the importance that volunteers can make in making our communities a better place, a more healthier place to live. But during Volunteer Week, I encourage you all to reach out to people who you know who volunteer and say thank you. Whether it's the Girl Guide leader, the hospital volunteers, or simply those helping shovel out a neighbor. Trust me, I'm a doctor. We'll all feel better for it.
Dr. Fury is the honorary chair. We also have Bernard Davis, chair of Volunteer Week 2014 with the CLB, Jackie Dollamont, vice chair, Volunteer Week, VOCM Cares Foundation, Pam Corrigan, Community Sector Council, Newfoundland Labrador, and Trish Boyer with School Sports. So I just want to acknowledge those folks as well. And if you want to come up, we'll all get a snap took.
Yes, my name.
All right, Councillor Stoyles asked to speak to this proclamation.
I wanted to say that several weeks ago I attended the opening luncheon where Dr. Fury spoke for the opening, the start of Volunteer Week, where they kicked off Volunteer Week, and he talked about his experience where he went to Haiti, and I must say it was quite an interesting story. For about 20-25 minutes he had rum at all, listening to what they do when they go abroad, helping people in other countries. And also I wanted to say thank you to all the volunteers here within the city of Mount Pearl and in the province. We certainly do our best, and I see it happening more and more now, where we instill it into our children and our grandchildren. We got children now as young as 2 and 3 fundraising and volunteering and doing stuff because they see their parents do it and they see their grandparents do it, and they want to be part of it as well. And it's so nice when I look at my grandson, who's 8 years old, and out volunteering for different charities and raising money for lupus and other organizations, and we have to be so proud of them and imagine where they're going to go in the next 30 and 40 years. And I want to say hats off to all the good work that Dr. Fury and his team does, and to everybody here in the province.
Nicely said. Any other comments? Councillor Ledwell?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just wanted to make a comment, of course, as Councillor Stoyles so eloquently said. This city of ours is built on volunteers. One need look no further than the recent Frosty Festival. We're talking about hundreds and thousands of volunteers spending many, many hours putting together a worthwhile community event like the Frosty Festival, which was a fantastic success. So I too want to say a word of thank you to the volunteers, all of them, young and old, in our city. And I want to make mention, of course, that there's a lot of events that happen in our city during Volunteer Week, not the least of which, of course, is our annual Citizen of the Year ceremony that happens. And I know the Kinsman Club puts a lot of effort into putting that event together every year. I certainly want to thank them for it. And I want to encourage all of our volunteers and volunteer organizations to consider nominating someone for Citizen of the Year, because it's certainly a great honor even to be nominated for that sort of award, and it's a great way to recognize all of the great volunteers in our city. So I'd encourage everybody to have a look out for that and certainly consider nominating somebody.
Good point, because they certainly don't do it for the recognition, but it's nice to recognize all the work that our volunteers do. And speaking of the young volunteers, I want to acknowledge three of my little friends here, Matthew, Owen, and Aaron, down back here. Miss Edney, Tanya is their mother, and Tanya teaches at Mount Pearl Senior with me. And I see these 3 young folks, to Councillor Stoyles' point. They were at the food collection day, and we had the food drive back, that was at Christmas time, just prior to Christmas. They were at the community cleanup, they were at the school cleanup, so they're shining examples right there of our future citizens that's going to keep this volunteerism going. That, as Dr. Fury said, I mean, that is a part of our DNA here. That's what makes a community, isn't it? Councillor Akers said it earlier, it's not the bricks and the mortar, it's the spirit of the community, and that, of course, is created by the people of the community, and we look out for each other, and we look after each other and make sure that we help where we can. So again, thank you again for this, and congratulations and thanks for all the work that you guys do. Thanks so much. Okay. All right, we're getting through them, folks. One at a time here. All right, the next one. What's that? Yeah, thinning them out. I'm used to that. I'm a teacher, so I know all about that, right? As the class goes on, I lose. Right at the start, they're all attentive, and they sort of. I'm just kidding. All my students are always attentive. I'm just making a bit of fun here. All right, then the next proclamation, guys, is I was delighted that Mayor Sims was away. That's probably a little selfish on my part, but because I knew in his absence I would get to read this proclamation, and it involves the 4 schools, the 2 junior highs and the 2 senior high schools in our city: Mount Pearl Senior High, Mount Pearl Intermediate, St. Peter's Junior High, and O'Donnell High School. And this has to do with Pride Day, March 25th. So my understanding is Donna Rice Parsons is going to come up and speak to this once I read in the proclamation. So Donna and I go way back, another long-term Mount Pearl lady right here, so we're delighted with this. And this has been a collaboration amongst the 4 schools, so I'm sure Donna will acknowledge the other teachers and representatives from the schools and the students here, because I don't have all the names before me. So the theme is I Am Proud, Are You? Pride Day, March 25th, 2014. Whereas Mount Pearl Intermediate, Mount Pearl Senior High, O'Donnell, and St. Peter's Junior High are proud to have schools that provide education about diversity and equality through their Gay Straight Alliance clubs. Whereas Mount Pearl Intermediate, Mount Pearl Senior High, O'Donnell, and St. Peter's Junior High support its schools for their recognition that all students, all staff, all residents should be valued and respected for whom they are, regardless of their sexual orientation. Whereas the City of Mount Pearl and its schools understand that bullying and harassment of any individual is unacceptable for any reason. Therefore, I, Jim Locke, Deputy Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, Newfoundland and Labrador, hereby proclaim March 25th, 2014 as Pride Day for O'Donnell High School, Mount Pearl Senior High, Mount Pearl Intermediate, and St. Peter's Junior High. I also urge all residents of Mount Pearl to become an ally and support our students in promoting equal rights regardless of sexual orientation. So I will sign this, but I got to get a pen from Councillor Stolz if she wouldn't mind, because mine has gone dry. Thank you. And Donna, if you want to speak to this, I'll just turn on this microphone here and turn it over to you. Thank you.
We're delighted that our 4 schools, some of them rival schools for many, many years, were able to come together to celebrate pride and diversity among our student body and among our teachers and volunteers within our schools. We've been very blessed that we're able to have GSA clubs, and our students feel very free to come to these clubs without feeling any prejudice whatsoever. And our administrators have been so supportive in doing things for this Pride Day, and have given us a pledge wall where all our students are going to sign pledges. We have little gifts to pass out to our students when they sign their pledge, little pride buttons and so on. And at O'Donnell, we're having a cake as our lunch. So much for Nutrition Month next.
A little bit of cake will never hurt you. Yeah.
Everything in moderation.
That's right.
And but some cake for our students and everything to help celebrate their diversity among our student bodies. 1 in every 10 people born are born gay, and it's something that we have to learn to accept and to be open to, and to treat with equality at all times.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Thank you. And we're going to get a little picture here. I'll present this proclamation. And of course, all the gang in attendance, if you'll come up. Great. And the color purple was being worn today in support support of this, yes. So I noticed that many of us have purple on to support this proclamation. So just in case.
I got red from the beginning of the flag.
Come on up and we'll see if we can organize. Guys, we gotta get in here. We gotta turn sideways if you can. You might need two or three rows. Maybe 3 or 4 rows. Oh, Matthew and Aaron, you guys wanna come over here? Next to the butler? There you go. And hold the proclamation up here.
We'll get a snap after the motion.
Thank you, guys. Does anyone on council wish to speak to this proclamation? Any comments,
First
Councillor
of all,
Aker?
I would like to make a comment. I'm very proud of the unity that's shown by all of the schools. I can't imagine somebody wouldn't get on board. I suspect, and I'll be dead honest when I say this from my heart, it's a bit of a generational thing. I believe your tolerance, the younger you are, the more tolerance you have, the more less accepting, I should say, of bullying that you are. I want to congratulate all 4 schools. I think it's a great initiative. If you ever need any help from council or maybe from the city, other events and activities, I'm sure this council and our city would be very glad to support it. But it's nice to see it happening in the schools, not only at the high school level, but the junior high level. You are educating our kids. I think our society will be a much better place going forward. So thank you very much.
I agree. Thank you. Councillor Ledwell?
I'll just be very brief, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to say, it's apt that this is called Pride Day because certainly our students getting involved in an initiative like this make us very proud. I think, I think Councillor Aker was sort of going in the direction of saying, our students, it is a generational thing. I think we can learn a lot from our students with endeavours like this. Certainly they can teach a lot of tolerance and love and respect to all of us in the world. So I'd like to congratulate all the students involved for their efforts with this Pride Day initiative.
Indeed. And just a note, on March 25th, we at the city here will be flying the rainbow flag in honor of Pride Day, so it's our pleasure to do that. And I know when I brought this initiative before council, Donna contacted me. It took about 3 seconds to get agreement around the table. It was unanimous, instant. So we appreciate what the students are doing, and certainly the teachers for the initiative that you guys have undertaken. As a high school teacher, and you guys as well, you know how difficult sometimes as you get older, you forget what life is like as a high school student, and you forget the social pressures that students feel. So when your sexual orientation is under attack, it places even more pressure on you. So I think the GSA in all these schools is great strides for acceptance and the love of all people, regardless. Humans are humans, and we got to get that message across. And you guys are champions for that, and we are extremely proud of you guys and what you're doing. So thank you so much. All right? Thank you. Oh, very nice. Yep, everyone represented. So, okay. Moving along here, we have our next proclamation. Has to do with World Plumbing Day, and my understanding is John Ozan, President of Newfoundland Labrador Region Canadian Institute of Plumbing and Heating, is in attendance, and when I read the proclamation, I'll get John to come up and speak to that. Today, World Plumbing Day, March 11th, 2014, is World Plumbing Day. Whereas access to clean drinking water is a basic right that is still not available to many people throughout the world. According to the World Health Organization, each year 3 million children under the age of 5 die from water-related diseases due to a lack of plumbing infrastructure. Simple plumbing solutions that prevent diseases from entering the water supply would save lives. Working in partnership with the World Plumbing Council, the United Nations has declared 2005 to 2015 as the International Decade for Action, Water for Life, to bring safe drinking water to 97 million people by 2015. The Mechanical Contractors Association of Canada, the Canadian Institute of Plumbing and Heating, and the World Plumbing Council, along with related organizations around the world, will join together on March 11th today to raise awareness of the need for proper plumbing systems while highlighting the importance of plumbing in helping the environment through water conservation and the installation and maintenance of energy-efficient plumbing. Therefore, I, Deputy Mayor Jim Locke, on behalf of Mount Pearl City Council, do hereby proclaim March the 11th, 2014 as World Plumbing Day in the city of Mount Pearl. So if I could ask Mr. Ozan to come up and speak to this. I'll sign the proclamation. Turn this on for us. Here you go, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scoot you over here a little bit.
Over?
Yep.
I don't have a speech like the good doctor did, but
No
I'd
worries.
just like to thank you for reading the proclamation and bringing attention to plumbing in general. Most people think of plumbing and they think of overweight guys with low pants. But there's more to it than that, and you know, like the water, like it's all about how you get your water, how you distribute it, and how you dispose of it. And right from when you get it from the ground or a lake or wherever you get your water, right to your kitchen faucet, to your toilets, to your wherever it goes, your lakes and rivers and streams. And CIPH is committed to promoting the plumbing systems, healthy plumbing systems, and plumbing systems that are going to benefit the less fortunate people, like in third world countries. We're helping out that way any way we can. But just thank you for reading the proclamation. And
Our pleasure, and thank you for bringing attention to this. So here's the proclamation here, and we'll go down and get a snap hook.
Some as well. I, Your Worship, will speak.
All right, Councillor
this
Scholes would
one.
like to speak.
I
speak to
just
the
want.
proclamation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just want to say sometimes we don't realise when we turn on our pipes how important it is that our water is there. But this past number of weeks, and last week in particular, we had a large number of people here in the city that had frozen pipes. I know I had received several calls, and I spoke to the foreman up at Public Works, and he had, I think it was on Thursday or Friday morning last week, he had up to 14 to 16 inquiries wondering what to do with frozen pipes, and just wanted to say, to be careful, anybody. I know there was a number of frozen again this morning, frozen pipes, and of course our staff informs you will go and find a connection and that find out where it's going into your home and stuff like that. But they were certainly lending a caution not to, it's fine to use a hairdryer, but blow torches and things like that not to use because of safety issues and things like that, because of chance of fire. But when you don't realise how important it is until you don't have it. And this past week, and when we had the storms and we lost our power, we certainly saw how devastating that was for a number of people. But when you turn on your tap and there's no water there, is certainly very hard for people trying to get to work and things like that. So we don't realise how fortunate we are to have it at our fingertips.
Indeed. Anyone else? I do know, we're building a summer home, and I know what it's like. You really appreciate. You build it, and you don't have any town services where we are, so we had to dig a well, and then we had to put in the septic system, And prior to that time, I was carting buckets of water from the pond, to water my wife's, plants that she had planted. So it gives you a great appreciation for just how fortunate we are that we can turn on that tap and it's potable water that comes out. And 365 days a year, we have our reliable staff here and trained staff in the city of Mount Pearl, and they make sure that our water is potable and clean every single day of the year. And again, to Councillor to Councillor Stoltz's point, you take it for granted. And Mr. Ozon mentioned about they're helping, people in third world nations that don't have adequate drinking water, but we have communities in this province. I think last year we had around, 120 communities that were on boil water orders. So that's in our province. So you don't have to go far to realize the importance of and the need for clean drinking water. And quite often we do take it for granted. So, initially when people hear about, World Plumbing Day, they're like, World Plumbing Day, like it sort of catches unawares. But when they realize what exactly they're trying to attempt and the attention that's being brought to it, I think it's a great initiative. So thank you. All right, gang, we just have another couple of proclamations here. And my understanding is we have no one to speak to this, so I'll just read this into the record. This has to do with Dietitians of Canada Nutrition Month. The theme is Simply Cook and Enjoy. Whereas the goal of National Nutrition Month is to encourage all Canadians to eat well, and whereas registered dietitians are a trusted source of credible nutrition information and are launching a campaign focusing on helping consumers make healthier food choices, and whereas Canadians are interested in healthy eating and want information to help them achieve this goal, dietitians offer nutrition resources as well as interactive tools on the Dietitians of Canada website, www.dietitians.ca. Now, therefore, I, Jim Locke, Deputy Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, Newfoundland and Labrador, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2014 Nutrition Month in the City of Mount Pearl. Sign this. And does anyone wish to speak to this particular proclamation? No? I was thinking when I was reading through our kit on this, the World Health Organization this week came out with the study on sugar and the amount of added sugar that's in our diet. And there were some dietitians on CBC Radio yesterday during the lunch hour program, one of whom was a former student of Mount Pearl. And they were talking about, the need for proper nutrition. But one caller called in and he made an interesting point. And he said, in areas where they don't have potable water, where water is not reliable or they can be confident that it's clean, their alternatives are fruit drinks and soft drinks and stuff like that. And it was a very, very interesting point that he brought up that, I take it for granted. I have water with all my meals and I don't have bottled water in my house. I fill up a jug with Mount Pearl water and I put it in my fridge and every day that's what we drink. But some people can't do that. So their alternative is, like I said, fruit drinks or soft drinks that are very high in sugar content. So the link here between, reliable potable drinking water and a good diet is quite noticeable here. So I just wanted to bring that to attention. All right, our last proclamation, and this just came in, so you guys haven't seen that in your kit, so it just came in today. Multiculturalism Week, March 17th to the 23rd, 2014. Whereas the celebration of multiculturalism is based on a vision that Newfoundland and Labrador is a dynamic and vibrant province with welcoming communities where the cultural diversity of all its residents is valued, and whereas the City of Mount Pearl is committed to the promotion of inclusive citizenship, welcoming communities, and cross-cultural understanding, where the cultural diversity of all people is valued, supported, and enhanced to collectively build a self-reliant, prosperous community. And whereas the City of Mount Pearl has made a commitment to partner with community stakeholders through multicultural initiatives. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Deputy Mayor Jim Locke, do hereby proclaim the week of March 17th to March 23rd, 2014 to be Multiculturalism Week. I encourage all residents of the community to recognize that diversity is our strength and to support community celebrations aimed at fostering respect, equality, and cross-cultural understanding. And I'll sign this and we'll be sure to get that passed on. Anyone wish to speak to Multiculturalism Week? I know one of the successful events at our Frosty Festival was, the International Foods and what was the title on that? International Foods and Craft Fair. Thank you. and I think there were 22 different cultures represented at that event. So it was great. It was very well attended. So another sign of our efforts to embrace many cultures from around the world here. All right, Council, I thank you for your patience to get through the proclamations. Not that it was required, because they were all worthwhile, and it was great to see the gallery filled with all the folks to come down and to speak to those proclamations and join in here with Council to read all those into the record. So the next thing on the agenda now is correspondence. We have two pieces of correspondence here, and the first has to do with the provincial development permitting requirements. And Councillor Ledwell is going to speak to this particular piece of correspondence. Councillor Ledwell?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Correspondence has been received from the Provincial Department of Service, Newfoundland and Labrador, to advise that Service NL it works in partnership with the Department of Municipal Affairs and Intergovernmental Affairs to administer the requirements for land development permitting along protected roads in the province. The Protected Road Zoning Regulations under the Urban and Rural Planning Act outline the requirements for obtaining a development permit to build or otherwise develop land, whether Crown or privately owned, within the building control lines of protected roads. Now, in an effort to raise awareness of these requirements, Service NL has produced a public awareness brochure, which I believe you all have at your desks there.
Yes.
And they've also produced a large-scale map. And now the map shows the roads which are protected. So you'll see them all here outlined in red. The department has also provided a copy of the Provincial Development Permitting System. So there's all kinds of information available on these particular conditions. City of Mount Pearl is pleased to acknowledge the public awareness campaign and share this information with the public. Copies of the brochure, map, and the guidelines are available at the Provincial Government Services Centre or on their website at http www.servicenl.government.nl.ca. And that's it for
All right, thank you, Councillor Ledwell. Anyone wish to speak to that? Councillor Aker?
Just a question. So, looking at the map, would this include any roads in Mount Pearl itself, or would it just be the Outer Ring Road and Pitts Memorial Drive? Just curious, because I noticed within a municipal boundary, I think the setback is not 400 meters from the center line, it's 150 meters. So would that apply here to, say, Topsail Road or Commonwealth Avenue?
Okay, Director Yevchek, can you speak to that?
Thank you, Councillor, Deputy Mayor Lockett. Yeah. In response, yeah, it applies to two roads. One is Pitts Memorial Drive, and the other one is the Trans-Canada Highway as it turns into the Outer Ring Road. That portion that's adjacent to the city. Okay. Yeah, and so by requirement, the development that occurs within basically 150 meters of the center line requires two permits, one from the municipality and one from the Service NL. So that is part of the process.
Okay.
Follow up here,
Councillor Aker, yeah.
So, say I'm living up on Wilson Crescent, up by the glacier, up that way. Would that 150 meters, would that land in the back garden of some of the people that live up that way? And for example, if they were putting a shed in their back garden or replacing a fence, there would be no obligation on our part, would it, to also go through government services for an item like that? I'm just thinking we're the 150 meters,
yeah.
which may not even hit, I don't know, it may not hit the back gardens. But if it did, I guess what we're reading from all of this is that there might be two levels of government that have to process an application.
Councillor Yevchek?
Sorry.
Director Yevchek?
Thank
Mayor
you, Your
Yevchek?
Deputy Worship.
Butler Yevchek? Sorry.
Butler, yeah. Councillor, yeah.
I'm sorry, Director Yevchek.
Our practice has been, and we've first of all, it's a good question to ask. Our practice has been, if it's a principal development, we will send it to used to be called Development Control and Department of Municipal Affairs, and now Service NL, for their review and permitting. But usually for subsidiary buildings, such as garages, sheds, fences of that nature, no, we don't, because that would be a very onerous process for a very simple matter. They're more concerned about the impact of major development, that access points, and even signage, by the way, would have on the highway system.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. you want to speak to this? No? All right, well, thank you for that. Thank you, Councillor Ledwell, for speaking to that. The next piece of correspondence that we have here is from M&L, Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador. And this deals with the new Economic Development Action Plan that's been developed. Now, Mayor Sims spoke to this at our last meeting and made some comments on this. But just again, it's an initiative underway here involving the Urban Municipalities Committee, or the 20 largest municipalities in Newfoundland and Labrador. And they are going to share their resources, their expertise, their skills to offer to rural communities to promote economic development, not only within their own boundaries, but within rural municipalities within the region. So this is an exciting new initiative, and the plan is that the members of the Urban Municipalities Committee will ratify this new plan by individually passing resolutions within their own councils, and then collectively sign an accord that commits, again, the 20 largest populated municipalities to conduct joint research and share best practices on economic development that will benefit the province as a whole. My understanding is this is going to take place in the fall, this signing of this new Economic Development Action Plan. So I just wanted to read that into the record. Director Yevchek?
Again, Your Deputy Worship, just very quickly, we have received the documentation. Since receiving this, we've also received the documentation regarding the resolution and kind of backgrounder to the resolution. And I think this was just released by M&L. I think I saw it in the newspaper, I believe, just the other day.
Okay.
So that resolution will most likely be coming forward through our committee system and to our next council meeting.
Okay.
If council feels that it's something they wish to support. And then you're correct, the intention is that this will come forward in the fall for those municipalities involved to endorse the resolution and the initiative. And then M&L will then basically take it from there and move the whole initiative forward.
Okay, thank you.
I want to speak to Your Worship. At one time,
Councillor Stoyles, yeah, sorry.
At one time, Your Worship, M&L was looking at hiring an economic development officer for the province to do some work, and this was an initiative that they decided to do first before they went that route to see the need for economic development in the province.
Okay.
And as you know, every town, every community is unique, but we all need the same thing. We all want to prosper, and we all want to do good for our communities. And sometimes M&L is, like they're pitting communities against communities. So we want to work together with communities, especially years ago when they looked at fish plants leaving one community in the other and things like that. So it's a great initiative, and I'm delighted to be part of M&L as Avalon Vector to support this initiative, and I'm looking forward to see how it's going to unfold. And Mayor Sims is the one, and as chair of the Urban Towns, that is heading it up, and want to say a great job to Craig Pollitt and to the staff at M&L.
Okay, good. It's interesting because we're looking at economic development sort of at the macro level as opposed to, individually at the micro level. So I think this indeed is a great initiative. Thank you, Councillor Stoyles. Now I've had a request with the leave of council. We have some visitors to the gallery here, so if we could move Planning and Development Committee's report first. Are we all okay with that? All right, you okay with that, Councillor Ledwell? All right, well, I'll call on you, sir, to bring in our first committee report.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I do want to recognize Mike and Stephanie Head, certainly in the gallery. I know that they're waiting to hear our first item, so I'll get right into it, folks. The first item on our planning agenda is the Proposed Development Regulations 2010 Amendment number 30 for 2014. This is, I guess, otherwise known as the Pearlview Phase 7 Rezoning Amendment. It's an application from 11178 Newfoundland Limited to rezone the parcels of Pearlview subdivision from RSU3 to residential high density. Now, the parcels in question is, I guess, referred to as Phase 7, which consists of roughly 2.69 hectares or 6.64 acres of land. The purpose of the amendment is to allow for the development of double dwellings, 58 semi-detached dwelling units, and 1 single-family unit. And the application is a submission on behalf of 2 property owners, those being Cardinal Properties and Junction Development. The current RSU 3 zoning does not permit double dwellings. Now, a notice of the proposed amendment was published in the Telegram on January 11th, and a briefing session was scheduled for January 28th. The session did proceed as planned, and there were a number of concerns that were raised. Some residents were concerned about a potential decrease in property values. There was changes around, or concern around potential changes to the plan for the neighborhood. There were a number of concerns raised about traffic and safety on Mount Carson, particularly at the intersection of Mount Carson Avenue and LaSalle Drive. Certainly there were concerns around congestion and further intensification of the area up there. There were concerns about snow load and concerns about a potential increase in crime, as one resident put it, as to do with the potential people who would be owning those pieces of property. So it was a good session. Certainly we had various feedback from the proponents as well as from the public in the area. Now, the proposal would increase the number of units in the area from 41 to 43 units up to 59. Now, that would result, of course, in an increase of 16 units, which, you know, upon discussion, we certainly looked at as a committee with planning and development that wouldn't constitute, you know, a dramatic increase in intensification and density in the area. The area can technically accommodate the proposal. It's certainly not anticipated that any property values will be decreased. Any information that we have certainly does not reflect that. And right now, you know, the commentary regarding the zoning is valid. However, semi-detached units would not significantly alter the, I guess, the atmosphere or the characteristic of the area. Now, the developers are, I guess, in doing this, are trying to create a housing that's more affordable for that particular neighborhood in Mount Pearl. And again, with the 16 units, the increase wouldn't necessarily reflect a dramatic increase in the amount of traffic that would be in the area. So traffic safety, while still an issue, I don't think would be dramatically affected by this particular rezoning. So therefore, based on all of that, it is the recommendation of the Planning and Development Committee that the proposed Development Regulations 2010, Amendment 30, 2014, the ProView Phase 7 rezoning amendment to rezone parcels in the ProView subdivision extension Phase 7 consisting of approximately 2.69 hectares or 6.64 acres from RSU 3 to RHD be adopted as attached. And I so moved.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Aker. Anyone want to speak to this? Councillor Stoyles?
Your Worship, over the past number of weeks, I guess, since this has been on the go and we had the public hearing, I certainly had heard from a number of residents in the area, as we did last time a proposal had gone ahead and we had initially turned the other one down, and the residents had contacted me with some grave concern about the development, and I will not be supporting this because people up in the area now that don't feel that it will meet the right facade with the neighbours, and they felt that it was certainly, you know, wouldn't look as good in the neighbourhood having duplexes and that, and with all the single dwellings, and that is enough duplexes that in the area as it is, and I'm going to be supporting the residents in the neighbourhood. That's it for me, Worship.
Okay. Your Worship. Councillor Aker?
Yeah, I too, I looked at this similar to the way the committee did. I looked at it from the lens of, well, when we looked at the rezoning request about approximately a year ago, we turned it down because it was because we were changing the zoning in the middle of a development in midstream. But the reality is we have to be cognizant of the fact that there's two big issues out there today. First of all, it's not the city that drives zoning. At the end of the day, it's the owners of the land. They have to be able to develop their land. They have to be able to find a market for that land. And in today's environment, housing prices have become so extremely high, to be honest, that it's very difficult sometimes at certain times of the market to sell houses that are affordable to people, as well as reasonably priced so that developers can make profits. So we're trying to strike a balance. If we had rezoned this to our MD, for example, we could see that every house up in that area could have basement apartments, for example, which means we would go from 40, say, houses up to potentially 80 units. The area is saturated with basement apartments. If there's any message I heard from the residents the previous time, is that they did not want to see a lot more basement apartments. No disrespect to apartment dwellers, it was the density that they were concerned
Right.
on. I think the committee has struck a fairly good compromise, weighing the developers' needs, the market forces, and also the consideration of affordable housing. We're basically increasing the number of units, I think it is by from 41, 42,
About 16
up to
units,
about 60 units approximately. That to me sounds a lot better than going up to 80. At the briefing session, all of the issues don't tend to surround the dwelling form. They tend to be about traffic and congestion. I don't think that increase in the number of units, which is about approximately not even 50%, is going to add a lot to traffic congestion. I never heard any complaints during the briefing session or discussions at the committee at the housing forum, semi-detached units. There's anything wrong with those. So for that reason, I'll be supporting the motion.
Okay. So these housing units, I mean, they're similar to, say, what we have on, up around Stoico, Olympic Drive, and, Bentney Place and stuff like that. So they're that style of housing. All right? Did you want to close debate there, Councillor Ledwell?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, and you're right. These are very similar to the semi-detached dwellings that you would have up off of Olympic Drive and Stoico, Lauman, and Surin in those areas. Very clean-looking semi-detached dwellings, and certainly not a bad-looking neighbourhood at all.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I wanted to point out, and was key in the deliberations of the committee this time around, was that this phase of the development has yet to commence development.
Mm-hmm.
When it came to Phase 6 and the basement apartment matter that we've discussed here, I think the concerns of the residents were that some of the pieces of LaSalle Drive and the surrounding area had already undergone some development. Some people had bought houses that were, already, I guess, halfway done or almost done or what have you. And they had bought those houses in that neighborhood with the understanding that they would be buying into a certain zoning.
So the argument was we would change the rules halfway through the game.
Midstream.
That was
In this case with Phase 7, however, the game hasn't really started. Now, I do understand that parts of the other phases of development have already occurred, but Phase 7 hasn't started yet, and that's why, as a committee, we were more comfortable recommending that this be approved.
Okay. Well, that's it. All right, then we'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. Next item, Councillor Ledwell, if you want to continue with the planning?
I would certainly like to do that, absolutely. The second item for planning is the proposed Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010. This is amendment number 31 for 2014. It's to do with self-service storage malls. This amendment proposes to add self-service storage mall to the list of permitted commercial uses for the industrial light use zone and to the list of discretionary uses for the commercial use zone. The purpose of the amendment is to regulate the development of storage malls in these zones. Now, notice of motion was brought forward by yours truly on February 11th of 2014. There was a briefing session that was scheduled for March 14th, but due to the fact that no representations were received, the briefing session was cancelled. Therefore, it is the recommendation of the Planning and Development Committee that the proposed Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010, Amendment number 31 to 2014, Self-Storage Mall Use Amendment, be adopted by Council and submitted to the Department of Municipal Affairs for registration, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Aker. Any comments or questions on this one? All right, let's call the question then. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Okay, our third item is to do with an application for the subdivision of a property at 50 Jersey Avenue and the construction of a double dwelling. The property owner is currently looking at constructing 2 semi-detached dwelling units on the property. The application is to subdivide the property at 50 Jersey Avenue. And, of course, the existing property, as we know, the old Hiscock House, has been demolished. The property is now a vacant lot. Under the proposal, Lot 1 would front onto Jersey Avenue, have a lot area of 286 square meters, and have 2 parking spaces. Lot number 2 would front onto Smallwood Drive, have a lot area of 291 square meters, and have 2 off-street parking spaces as well. Now, the property is at the corner of Jersey Avenue and Smallwood Drive. In that neighborhood, the height of the buildings in the area are primarily 1 story. However, there are some 2-story homes in the area. and of course they're primarily single-family residential dwellings. The notice of the application was published on February 1st in the Telegram, and the notice of the application was also mailed to property owners within the 150-meter radius as per Council's policy. There were 3 written representations that were received, and there was a briefing session scheduled for February 19th, 2014. There were a number of concerns, I guess, or questions, I guess is probably a better term to put on it. There was some questions as to whether these units would be rentals or would they be owner, I guess, owner, I was going to say owner-operated, but owner-occupied is a better way to put it.
Right.
There was a question asked, why is the development for 2 units when 1 dwelling previously occupied the site? There was questions about the height of the building, the style of the roof, and can a double dwelling really be accommodated on the particular site? We did get some responses the night of the session from the developer, even though the folks that had made the representations weren't in attendance. We had an opportunity to discuss with the developer. He informed us that 1 of those 2 units will definitely be owner-occupied. He's not sure about the other at this point. Because of the cost of the site, the developer needs 2 units to make the project reasonably affordable. He's looking at possibly a flat roof or a roof with a very low pitch to keep the height down. And certainly there are, a couple of, I guess I'll say, deficiencies in terms of, allowing the 2 units to occupy that 1 piece of property. But these are, I guess, looked at as minor deficiencies, at least in our discussions as a committee. And certainly Council does, under Regulation 6.33 and 4.17, relating to residential intensification, we do have the ability to consider this proposal as it is. So following all of that discussion, it is the recommendation of the Planning and Development Committee that we support this proposal as it is provided, and that we bring it forward for ratification for the issuance of a permit for the subdivision of the lot and construction of a double dwelling subject to a building permit not being issued until the building and servicing plans are received and meet approval of the city, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Aker. Any comments or questions on that? I did have a couple of calls, actually, a call from 2 separate residents along Smallwood Drive. And the first question, of course, was, to Councillor Ledwell's point, are they going to be owner-occupied? Are they going to be rental? And the second resident received a letter that was issued by our city staff, and they were of the understanding that it was going to be 2 duplexes. So they thought it was going to be 4 units there. And then when I indicated what the plan was, the proposed plan was, he seemed a little more at ease with respect to that. And at the meeting, the session that Councillor Ledwell mentioned here, the developer was out. I happened to drop down as well, and while we had no residents attend or anybody come down who provided written correspondence, the developer was quite open to accommodating any requests that were possible by the residents in terms of the slope of the roof or the height of the roof and stuff like that. So yeah, they were the only 2 calls that I had. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll call the question. And all those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Moving on with Planning, Deputy Mayor, our next item is to do with a proposed exterior storage yard at 12 Panther Place. This is an application from WLH Contracting Limited to grade and place granular fill in the rear portion of the subject property. The purpose is to create an exterior storage yard to store scaffolding equipment. The property at 12 Panther Place is currently owned by Avalon Controls Limited, and of course Avalon Controls Limited also controls the building that is currently on the property. WLH own and occupy a portion of 10 Panther Place, and they require a temporary laydown space for scaffolding equipment for the next 6 to 8 months. WLH Contracting Limited has entered into a private lease agreement with Avalon Controls Limited. The subject property is zoned light industrial, or IL, and commercial mix, CM, and it's adjacent to uses of a similar nature. Our engineering services staff have conducted a site visit. Now, there were no issues with the revised plan per se, but concerns with a manhole cover that had been covered over with fill were brought forward. There was a request that the developer locate the manhole cover, remove all fill, and properly grade it so that issue was rectified. Now, there is a requirement for 23 parking spaces on the site. There originally were 39 spaces for parking, so therefore this proposed storage yard won't affect the parking on the property. It will still meet the parking requirements, and therefore, providing that the issue with the manhole cover is addressed, the Planning and Development Committee recommends that the development application to undertake site development at 12 Panther Place to accommodate an exterior storage yard for the purpose of temporarily storing scaffolding equipment for a period of 8 months, and recommended that a development permit be issued subject to the conditions as recommended by the Planning and Development Department, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell and seconded by Councillor Aker. Comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Our next item has to do with a little update here on the Stericycle waste transfer facility. Of course, this is a process that has been in the chamber before, and this is just simply, I guess, an update for council's information as well as the information of the public. The committee has been advised that further to the previous discussion and consideration of the above noted application, the city has now received a copy of the documentation regarding this environmental undertaking from the Provincial Government Department of Environment and Conservation. Now, in our discussions at committee, the director advised that this is anticipated as part of an external referral process. The document has been reviewed by staff, and the content is consistent with the application, and there's no concerns for any unanticipated matters to affect proceedings. So we as a committee just wanted to bring this forward to, I guess, update council and let council and the public know that the process continues to roll on, and certainly I guess there will be more information coming forward as we move ahead.
Okay.
Our next item is just a brief report on a meeting that we held recently as a Planning and Development Committee with Mr. Vaughan Hammond, who's the Director of Provincial Affairs for the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. The meeting was attended by the members of our Planning and Development Committee as well as a number of our directors, senior staff from the city. I guess Mr. Hammond wanted to have a meeting with the city to see if we could see if there's any potential for some ongoing communication, some improved communication between the city and between the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. He did provide some sample documents that he had brought forward. He brought along his the organization's Communities in Bloom report, which is a national document prepared annually, and he's gone to his superiors to recommend that Mount Pearl be recognized in this particular document. He also brought along an example of the business barometer that the organization publishes. It's a monthly report that is published at the end of every month. And he also took us through a PowerPoint presentation that spurred quite a bit of discussion with regards to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business and what it tries to advocate for on behalf of its members. Just for a bit of information, I guess, the CFIB is a non-partisan, not-for-profit political advocacy organization. It was founded in 1971, and it has nationally over 109,000 members. And I'm proud to report that there are 175 members of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business right here in the city of Mount Pearl. Of course, what they do is they advocate on behalf of their members to try to, one of their advocacy things that they do is to try and get value for their members through the municipal taxes that they pay. Now, CFIB has been pleased to recognize the City of Mount Pearl is involved in the BizPal program. We have a current business guide, and we have lessened the tax burden in 2014 on our corporate and business community. Also, of course, they've commended the city on the fact that our regulations and bylaws are effective, and the city has continually worked to reduce red tape. And he certainly recommends that we continue to acknowledge that the city has continued to work with our business community to make it easy, to do business in the city of Mount Pearl. One thing that we wanted to sort of bring forward from the meeting is that we'll continue to have open two-way communication between the Canadian Federation of Independent Business and the city so that we can better serve their members right here in the city of Mount Pearl. So, moving right along. Soon getting tired of talking here, I think.
Next is a notice of motion.
Next is a notice of motion, yes. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act 1988, take notice that in accordance with Council's public notification policy, I will, at a regular meeting of Council, move an amendment to the land use zoning map of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010 that, if enacted, will, number one, amend Map 1 land use zoning map as follows. Rezone the portion of land that is located at the southeast corner of Topsail Road and Forsey Place, immediately east of Forsey Place, south of Topsail Road, west of the property at 913 to 915 Topsail Road, and immediately north of the property at 25 Forsey Place from residential high-density special RHDS to commercial mixed CM. The purpose of the amendment is to provide Council with the authority to consider an application for the proposed consolidation of land, the demolition of the existing building, and the redevelopment of the property at 913 to 915 Topsail Road for a car dealership, Tucker Acura. The rezoning of the subject property is for the purpose of extending the Tucker Acura parking lot onto this property.
Okay, thank you.
Going to have some water, Deputy Mayor. I'm
No
losing it here. Okay, almost there. The next item is the development permit list for the period of February 24th to March 7th. You see the two permits there, and I'd like to move those.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Aker. Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
And finally, just two last motions. First of all, the residential permit, the total for the period February 22nd to March 7th is $50,000, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Aker. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
And lastly, the building permit commercial total for the same period, February 22nd to March 7th, is $644,000, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All in favour?
All right.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
And that concludes planning.
Thank you, Councillor Ledwell. All right, so shall we jump back up to community services now and work our way through the agenda?
I got regional services up, it doesn't matter.
All right, we'll go. Yep. So why don't we go back and we'll do number 4 here. We'll go back to community services. So Councillor Stoyles is the second on community services committee. We'll bring in the report, and Councillor Aker will be the seconder to this report. Councillor Stoyles, if you working through the computer to get it up there.
All right. We have a couple of items, Deputy Mayor. The annual grant for the arts MOU, and we're recommending approval for $2,500, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Stoyles, seconded by Councillor Aker. Call the question. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
The next one is Emily House operating grant, and that's in the amount of $20,250 for our Emily House Museum, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
The next item is for information only, and that's the Mount Pearl Pool Life-Saving Cup. The committee was informed that the Mount Pearl Pool will be presented with the Life-Saving Cup on May 30th, and this is something apparently that they do every year, and for organisations and groups who do a large increase in life-saving programs, and this year our pool has fell under that category, and they earned over 3,120 points, and we are so happy to see the pool fall under this category, and we want to congratulate Susan Quigley and her team for such a great job. They've entered into a lot of different programs, life-saving programs, and hats off to the staff.
Excellent. And with our new pool coming on stream this summer, the turn, maybe?
It's probably
sorry, I just had to throw that in there.
Hopefully
so this is great. I mean, I know our staff do a great job, and it's nice to receive this recognition. So we'll certainly extend congratulations to Susan Quigley. Okay, yes.
And also, Your Worship, our summer day camp jobs are coming up, and the competition has started. Is going to be advertised in the Telegram this coming weekend, and April the 11th is the last day to apply for students. So any students out there looking for summer job, and we also hire Park Patrol. I don't think that's included in this. That'll be separate, and we also usually hire 12 to 14 young people for Park Patrol, so it's great to see. We have, how many do we have? Well over, I think it was 80 one year. How many students will we hire? Because some of them come back year after year, a large amount stay for the whole term while they're in university or doing post-secondary courses. Do you have?
In a range of 60.
60 or so,
yep.
so plus what we hire for our park patrol. So we have close to 80 young people working here
Absolutely.
in the city in the summertime, not counting the planning department and other departments that hires students other times during the year for work terms and things like that.
Yep.
So
That's great. They put off great programs, and I know that appeared in this Saturday's Telegram as well. So just a reminder that April 11th is the cutoff, because I've had some inquiries from some young people as to when the cutoff was. So that's great that you brought that in today, Councillor Stolz.
And it will be in the Telegram this coming weekend.
Right. Good.
And congratulations are extended to the Marylands and all the meets and that they've had in November and December. I attended the provincial championship in January, and of course they have a lot of competitions coming up again in March and April, and glad to see them doing so well in their competitions and everything.
They're always doing well, aren't they?
It's going to be great the next time. When I was out, I was saying it's going to be great to see the new pool open and having them compete.
I'll be delighted to present medals at the turn.
Yes, it
Yeah.
certainly will. And the Swim for Hope relay is taking place on Friday, March 21st, and it's a 12-hour relay that's been on the go now for 18 years, and I know a number of council have gone down over the years and supported them, and we're looking forward to them. Half of the money raised goes to the Bliss Cancer Foundation, and the other half stays in with the club, and there's a great fundraiser. There's a joint fundraiser. Talk about volunteerism when you get all the groups working together and sharing the funds. It's, this started 18 years ago, and I remember going to it was one of the first events that I remember being part of when I was on council, and it was great to see them all coming together to work for, and it helps both organisations, so I'm delighted to see it continue. And now it's a provincial-wide campaign. It started off in the Mount Pearl and St. John's area, and now it's gone right across the province.
Nice.
And so many other groups benefit besides the Cancer Society. So
I know we were down last year. I was down. Councillor Aker was down. Was it?
I was down.
Mayor Sims for the Swim for Hope. Were we all involved in making the boats last year?
Yes, yeah,
We had,
that's right.
had to make it out of duct tape, but the spirit that's down, the energy, the enthusiasm of the kids, it was a great event. I think Councillor Aker and I even took a little plunge at the end, and we went in and tested the water, and it wasn't a pretty sight, but we were in the water and out again. So yes, we got an invite, but it was great. I mean, the boats that the kids came up with, it's so much fun. And like I said, it's a 12-hour event, and the kids and the parents and the volunteers put so much time in it. So that's great. Thank you for that,
That's it for
Councillor
me,
Stolz. Thank you. All right, next is Corporate Services Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship.
And I'm going to call on Councillor Aker, and Councillor Stolz will be the second on this one.
3 items today, Council, for your consideration. One is the first one is request for tax considerations, which are in accordance with our exemption policies as it relates to charitable organizations within the city. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 properties listed, and I move that we waive the taxes for this year. These are all confirmed charitable organizations. Right. Many of them have been long-standing business or non-profit residents within the city. I shouldn't say business, but more non-profit, because they are charities. And I so move we waive their taxes.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Stolz. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Part 2 is some sponsorship requests. The Royal Canadian Legion, Newfoundland Labrador, approval to place a 1/4-page black and white ad, cost of $261, in the Royal Canadian Legion, Newfoundland and Labrador Command's Military Service Recognition Book. We've done this in previous years. It's a book that honors members of the Legion, residents of Mount Pearl, who have served our country in battle or in very difficult circumstances. And I'd like to move that we place that ad in the book.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Stolz. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
We have a sponsorship request from municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador, for the Avalon Region's meeting, which is coming up this Friday, I think it is, or no, a week from Friday, right? 21st of March, yes, okay, thank you. $500, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
And finally, we have invoices for approval. There's 8 listed. Happy to say this week, or this time, it totals $94,469.38. That's probably the smallest one this year, and I hope it continues, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Stolz. All those in favour?
Thank
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Aker. Next, we'll move to Infrastructure and Public Works. And with Councillor Walsh absent and I in the chair, Councillor Ledwell is going to bring in the report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm here today to bring in the understatement of the year. I'm sure it's no surprise to anybody that this winter has been above average for this area.
Yes.
You'll note here in the report that our snowfall to date has been 200 centimetres roughly. That's from January 1st. So if you factor in the month of December, we're looking at about 300 or more centimetres of snow that have fallen. And considering an average winter, Director Antle tells me is from 240 to 270, something like that, centimetres. Certainly over 300 is looked at as above average. We've had 15 snow events where we've had above 5 centimetres of snow, and you'll see that 80% of the days of this winter we've had either snow, ice, or rain. So there's been something falling just about every day. Therefore, of course, our city's resources are taxed, if you will. We've been deploying our resources as needed. The cold temperatures are impacting equipment, limiting salt effectiveness. We're doing our best. Our crews are out there night and day trying to keep the roads safe and plowed and well salted, but certainly the cold temperatures does affect the effectiveness of the salt they put down. Our snow dumps are nearing capacity, so we're using other areas as necessary. One area would be the old dog park up at Pearlgate area there, and of course another area would be the down behind the softball hut. We've been trucking those, and I know that we've had some trucking the snow down to those areas. I know we've had a number of issues. Some residents have been concerned about some noise at night and what have you, where we've been using these snow dumps, and I know that staff have replied to them, but I just wanted to make note that we're doing our very best. Certainly our crews are trying as best they can to keep the roads plowed, and we just ask folks to sort of exercise a little bit of patience as we move through the last portion of our winter. One thing that is a positive, I guess, about the winter is that people will get to use our beautiful trail system for walking or cross-country skiing. And I'm very pleased to report, as per this map that we have, that most of, or a vast majority, I guess, of our city's trails have been groomed already this winter by our staff. You'll notice, I don't know if you can see, Council, but in the green here, this is all the trailway that has been groomed by our staff. Most of the main trailway has been already done, and certainly we've moved off in some different directions, and I know that it's been widened and well groomed in a number of the entranceways to our neighborhoods. So certainly it's nice to have that groomed and for residents to be able to get out and use the trailway system during these cold winter months.
Now, when we say the main trailway there, Councillor Ledwell, are we talking the Powers Pond area, the T-Railway system?
Exactly. That's what we're referring to, yes. So that's I know there's an awful lot of people that go down and use that for walking, especially this time of year. So that's, I guess, a primary focus if we're going to be starting the groomed trails. That's what we focused on that area there.
Yeah, Councillor Aker, question? Comment?
Yeah, and I think it's great. I love the way it starts off there at the top of Powers Pond, works its way down through towards the Waterford River, and really then goes out the old, as you said, Councillor Ledwell, the old trailway. I know there's a group of residents. I live in the Powers Pond area. That is a real ideal area for walking. There's lots of ducks up there. It's a really nice day out if you want to go for a walk, get a bit of exercise. And I've had feedback from several of those residents who've really appreciated having that area. I'm not saying just to concentrate on that area. It's nice to do it all. But I guess ideally that's probably our starting point when we go to do grooming, is to do the Powers Pond area. And I must want to pass on that to staff, that the residents are really grateful. Thank you.
Well, the high traffic areas are the best ones to target. I'll just throw a plug in there as well. Part of the curriculum for the Canadian Geography course in the high school deals with urban planning, and I brought this up last year when they brought in the new textbook, that the city of Mount Pearl is highlighted as a case study in our textbook as one of the Canadian cities that are successfully planned. And I brought in a planning map that I got from Director Yevchek and showed the students, but some of the students in the class were not from Mount Pearl. It's funny that we brought the trails up today. They commented on how much they like our trailway system, that they love the fact that they can get out, they snowshoe, they walk around with their friends, they like the Powers Pond, they skated on the Powers Pond when it was frozen over the wintertime. So they acknowledged how neat it was, to use their terms. It was cool. The trail system in Mount Pearl was a cool system to have, So I throw it out there, and I know our staff are working diligently to. And just a reminder, as Councillor Ledwell said, that there's priorities. We got to take care of the safety of the streets first, and then the sidewalks, and then when personnel and the climate permits, then we get to grooming the trails. So we do have a process to follow. We don't forget about anything, but we only have limited resources who have been taxed and done an incredibly great job this winter to keep our streets and our sidewalks clear and safe. So hats off to our staff for that. Yep.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. You might say we don't like to leave any of our residents out in the cold.
There you go. Although it was hard this year, wasn't it?
And it was hard, yes. The only other item that we have on our infrastructure and public works report is related to our multiplex, and I'll try and keep it much shorter than the reports I used to give when I chaired the Engineering Services Committee. Just a note to say that the project is now 93% financially complete. Certainly we're all looking forward to having that beautiful new facility open in the summer of 2014, and things are moving along swimmingly. It looks great up there. I won't go as far as to call it the Tarn, but certainly I'll say it looks great.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor Ledwell. We've accomplished our planning. Next is Regional Services and Environment Committee, and I call on Councillor Stoyles to bring in this report.
And we're all doing double duty today. This is my regular committee report because we're having half of the council just about absent, so we don't mind filling in.
Well, we chip in and we help each other out.
The only thing is, when we get our check, we're going to see double duty on our check, right? Double time, yeah. Triple for me, triple for me today. The Regional Water Committee report. Baybol's Big Pan, of course, is holding its own, and the graph is there. This time of the year, we never have any problems. Usually, when we have any concern with our water levels, always in June, July, and August, and mostly July and August. So we're quite happy, especially with the amount of snowfall. I think we're going to be in good shape this year. So I think hopefully all will be well. Hopefully, we're going to have a nice hot summer after the long winter, and we don't mind suffering with a shortage of water if we get the good heat.
Oh, I don't know about that, but anyways, I'm just noticing the graph here, Councillor Stoyles, that the line for 2014, it is the second lowest. We got 2009, 2012, 2013, 2014. So, but it's not a concern. I mean, it's still within the acceptable ranges. And Director Ansel,
I think it's 27 feet. 26, 27 feet when we start to worry and start conserving, and we're up to 33. So,
all right, Director Ansel, want to speak to that? Yep.
There's one thing I'd like to mention to Council. When you look at that chart, the past 4 years, typically the water levels will start to increase quite significantly around this time of the year. Usually early March. Spring hasn't broke yet.
Right.
Once you see the temperatures, I hope, increase above zero, you'll see the ice in the pond will drop. The water levels will start to rise very quickly, but we just haven't hit spring thaw at this point.
So that will peak once the spring springs. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Councillor Aker?
Yeah. That number of 33 this time of the year is not the highest that we've had. One thing we have as a region going forward, is the fact that the region, now I'm talking about the west end of St. John's, Mount Pearl, Paradise, CBS, Portugal Cove, St. John's doesn't rely as much on Babel's Big Pond anymore.
Right.
They have a new reservoir coming on down in Petty's Harbour. So therefore, that number 33 is actually to service less houses going forward. Now, I know growth in the region will eventually take this all up.
Right.
But in the short term, that number looks, and I'm going to jinx it now, aren't I? But that number is looking pretty good going forward. So hopefully we don't have a too quick a runoff this coming winter. And hopefully, that summer of heat that Councillor Stoyles has promised us, hopefully it's not a dry one.
Right. But still to encourage people to
always
conserve water and not waste the water, because as we saw in one of our proclamations, with our World Plumbing Day proclamation, that it's it's a very valuable resource. Councillor Stoyles?
The next item is for information only. The North East Avalon Joint Council that normally meets every month, the third Wednesday of every month. In February they had to cancel their meeting because of a storm, and Minister Kent was supposed to come and speak to that meeting, and now he's rescheduled and he can't come, or he's not coming until April. And the next meeting, of course, is going to be in a couple of weeks' time, and that's going to be down Portugal Cove St. Philip's. But the meeting after that will be the April meeting, and Minister Kent will be there to speak to the Joint Council and any towns or any communities that has any concerns, to bring them forward to Sterling Willis, who is the chair, and we will certainly address them at the meeting with Minister Kent.
Sorry, where did you say that was
It's
being
going
held?
to be in CBS.
All right.
And
You probably
that's-
said that and I missed it. I
yes,
apologize.
that's where it's going to. I don't know if I said it, but that's where it's going to be at.
Okay, thank you.
The other item, again, is for information, is the Eastern Regional Service Board, and they had one meeting since Christmas, but a number of the board members were elected, and even though they were elected, the minister still has to appoint them, and then different towns had appointed different members, and that's not all being finalised. So I don't think they're going to have another meeting until it was finalised, and so I think it's probably going to be, mid-April, the end of this month or early April before they have their next meeting. But
Okay.
things are rolling along quite well with the Eastern Regional Service Board. Things, since they've started the new committee, and that I think everything is, they're not having any problems. I've attended a number of meetings for the joint councils in other areas, and they're quite happy with how it's going, and that, so they're all
Good.
quite happy with it.
Good.
And the last item I have, Your Worship, is the North Atlantic oil spill that took place in 2010, and of course we had a large oil spill, or a fair amount of oil spilled in Powerspan, and the city's crew had spent a lot of time and effort in there, and we calculated it was a little over $130,000 roughly, and we've sent all the information off to the North Atlantic, and they're looking for some further details and that what the city actually had done, and the equipment they used and things like that. So hopefully by the next meeting we will have a full report, and the city has asked to be reimbursed for the total amount that the city is out of pocket, and I'm sure that won't be a problem. They've met with our senior staff and certainly willing to work with them on that specific issue, because when the issue arose in the beginning of 2010, and I had brought it to the table several times because the residents in Powerspan had seen a lot of silting and oil and that, and they were very concerned with the pond and the environment, and the city certainly took action, and it certainly cost the city a fair amount of money, but we will be recouping all that money back to the city, and just wanted to inform the residents that it's still ongoing, but we will have it worked out hopefully by the next meeting or shortly after.
All right,
And
thank
that's
you.
it for me, Your Worship.
So the good news is that that issue has been resolved. It was primarily in the wetlands, was it not, in sort of the marsh area?
It
And
was in the pond as well.
well, obviously would have leached into the pond, but primarily I think most of the action was in the wetland area. So it's good news that it has been rectified, and it would seem that North Atlantic is taking the responsibility and stepping up to the plate. So that's good news all around. Thank you, Councillor Stoyles. Well, that brings us to the completion of all of our committee reports. So next on the agenda is new business, and I will go to Councillor Stoyles.
I will. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. A number of items. On Saturday night we had a major water main break. I received a call, I guess, about after 10 in the evening time, 10:30, and our crews were out not only all night but all the next day. It was Sunday, probably 4 or 5 o'clock before they actually had it done, and the residents were quite impressed to see our staff out all night long and well into the next day before. I think we had 2 breaks, and I want to say what a great job the staff had done, especially in those cold weathers, dealing with that
Not
issue.
easy, hey? They got to get out while we're nestled away in our warm houses, and they're out
Actually,
digging holes and
yeah.
fixing the pipes. So God love them.
Yeah, I drove down. I think it was I had been at St. Peter's Parish for the Paddy's Day, and of course the clocks had gone ahead. So I think it was 1:30, 2:30 in the morning. I had drove by just to see if they were still down there, because when I had called them 10 o'clock, I had been talking to the crew, and I said when we were leaving our party that night, I said I must take it down. I figured it was finished, and they were down there huddled in, trying to get in the truck to get warm and get back out again and get the work done. So yeah, they were too busy. I didn't stop talking to anybody because I didn't want to distract them. And
Right.
there was water everywhere, and there was an awful lot. I mean, the residents down there were very concerned because it was an awful lot of water. And one particular resident even had gotten all her family in, put sandbags and everything because she didn't know what was going on.
Right.
She thought the river had been flooding and something had broken down or something with the river, because we have had problems with the river in the past down on Forest Avenue and that. So she thought it was more to do with the river than it was a water main break in the beginning. And she had, the fire department was down there and the police, and it was a whole kerfuffle down there right from the very beginning of it. But as it was,
We took control as
they
usual
took
and
control and
rectified the problem.
and rectified the problem. Also, you, Deputy Mayor, I'd like for us to send off our condolences to Joan Cleary. Joan is the mayor of Come by Chance, and her son, AJ, was killed this past couple of days in that terrible accident. And I know Joan personally as by being on M&L, and
Right.
wanted to pass along my sympathies to her and her family. And, certainly a great loss to the province, and for her, and I can't imagine what they're going through losing their son like that.
She would say.
And also Terry Cuff passed away, Glenn Cuff's wife. They're really good friends of Randy Sims, the Mayor Randy Sims. Glenn has lived on the street, and Terry lived on the street with Randy for the past 30 years. And Terry passed away, and I want to pass along my sympathies to the Cuff family. And also, Your Worship, I missed the last meeting, and the night before I had gone on vacation, I had gone to O'Donnell High School, The Sound of Music, and the tremendous amount of talent we have in the city. We talk about it more and more, but when you sit in the audience and listen to The Sound of Music put off by our own students, it was amazing. I could have stayed there, for all night and listened to them.
Yeah.
They were just amazing. It was such a great show. And of course, M&L is doing our regional meeting, as being mentioned with the funding. The city is giving them a $500 grant to help oversee some of the projects, and we have a lot of guest speakers, and we're going to be talking about fiscal framework. But the most important thing that I find in these regional meetings, and this is for the whole of the Avalon, because we've been doing Avalon meetings all across the province, is more important to get for the towns to come in, and the roundtable discussions is what we find very useful for all the towns who have concerns and that, and they can sit down and have the discussions and bring it out to the public. So I wanted to mention that in any towns that haven't registered, I hope they will register in the next week, so we can get a fair number of people who is going to be coming.
Yep.
And as was mentioned earlier, our Citizen of the Year is going to be selected, and Kinsman has sent out to all the service groups their applications and that for anyone to nominate somebody for Citizen of the Year. So I would certainly like to encourage groups and individuals to nominate somebody. If it don't have to be a group, a service group or anything, you can nominate anybody. If you feel somebody in the community is deserving of being selected as Citizen of the Year, or certainly would like to see people put out their names forward, if one of your neighbours or one of your co-workers, and you see that they've done something in the community, put their name forward. It's not about winning or losing. It's about the honour, about being nominated and doing such a great job for our
Being
community,
recognised,
and
absolutely.
being recognised by the city.
Yep.
And last but not least, I wanted to wish Councillor Walsh all the best. He is home from the hospital, as you stated,
Yep.
and hopefully he'll be sitting next to me, hopefully in the next few weeks or so. We certainly miss him.
Indeed. Thank you,
And that's
Councillor
it for me,
Stoles.
Your Worship.
Thank you. Up next, Councillor Aker.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be very, very brief. O'Donnell's on my mind right now, and I want to congratulate the volunteers, the cast, and the staff at O'Donnell High School. Great job on the Sound of Music. And of course, I'd like to recognize Councillor Walsh. His absence here today. He's recovering from a little stay in hospital. We miss him very much, and I'm sure within the next week, 2 or 3, or whenever he's convalesced, he'll be back in action again. And I'd like
Absolutely.
to acknowledge that we wish him a speedy recovery. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Aker. Councillor Letwell.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I too just want to make mention of Councillor Walsh very briefly and wish him well, him and his family. Certainly he's a real asset to the council. certainly miss him at our planning development meetings and all around the city. So we'll certainly wish him well and hope he gets back with us soon.
All right, thank you. All right, well, that's it. I have nothing to add to all this. Mover to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Stoyles.
A long meeting.
We are adjourned. Thank you. I hope